Hello everybody, Mike Brailsford, Brailsford Works. Thank you for joining me back on my channel. I do appreciate it. So here I've got something that I've never turned before. It's elm, and I'm going to do a test turn today. I've got the whole log, but I'm going to cut off, about a 24-inch section, and I'm going to process it and turn it into a bowl. So here we go. It's got a split here and it's rotten in the middle, but there's enough on the side here that it's plenty solid and I have plenty to work with. So let me get this cut off and then I'm going to carry it over to the shop on my tractor.
Let's discuss the American elm for a little while. According to AI, the conservation status of the tree shows it as being endangered. However, the scientific classification shows it out of the at-risk category, but below the secure category. So, it's not, as prevalent as it used to be, but they are out there. So this particular tree, even though it was a healthy tree, despite the rot in the middle, it was going to come down. I got it from work. It was being cleared for a new simulated hospital that is going up for the community college that I work for. And so this one and several smaller elms that were on site were also taken down because the whole area was clear cut for this new building. So the elm is a fairly hardy tree that can take harsh conditions, and it also can thrive in urban conditions. That's why it was very popular in the late 19th and early 20th centuries as being a street tree because it could take that urban setting. Of course, that is until Dutch elm disease came around. It is spread by the elm bark beetle, and it is a fungus, and it was brought to the United States from Asia and also spread to Europe and New Zealand. Dutch elm disease is the reason why there are many, many, many cities that have elm streets in them and nary an elm to be found anywhere. Watching this video, it's little wonder I needed shoulder surgery.
This is a part that had split when they had logged it off the site, and I'll be able to get something out of this as well. I'll just throw this on top. Okay, so I got the 400. So here's what I'm going to do. I got a pencil. I hope you can see it. But you have this big cavity here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this here and here. And that should allow me plenty of material here to make a great big bowl out of. And this has got a crack in it, so these two might be something else. But this will be another bowl. Not quite as big. That'll be still a good size though. 12 inch. That's not disrespectable. So I'm going to flip this on its side and then whack this off.
So let's talk a little bit about elm wood itself. On the Jenka hardness scale, it comes in at 830. For comparison, sweet gum that I use pretty regularly comes in at 850, whereas a yellow poplar only comes in at 540. Ironically, longleaf pine comes in at about 630, so it's actually harder than poplar. Also, you go up to soft maple, which we have around here, is at 950. Red oak is at 1290, white oak is at 1360, and pecan is 1820, which is usually about the top of what I turn as far as hardness goes. So in final consideration, it should turn about the same way as my sweet gum.
Alright, I need to go get my circle gauge so I can whack the corners off of this.
So after finding the center, I use my highly calibrated piece of wood with a screw in it to draw my circle. So I get my blank into the shop. I eyeball my faceplate down to the center, keep that center mark in the middle of the threads, and then I just sock it down.
So I haven't turned anything in several weeks, and I had to finish up a baby crib. Now that I have, I'm free to turn something, and I am eager to try this elm. So here we go.
So from here, I'm just going to develop the outside shape of my bowls at the largest bowl and develop a tenon that can then be held on in my chuck. So then I will move on to coring. So looking at the end grain that was on this blank when it was on the log before I cut it, I was definitely tantalized into getting into turning it. I'm very much looking forward to seeing how these bowls look finished. So my first impression of turning elm is that it turns harder than does sweet gum. It just seems like a harder wood, even though on the gentle hardness scale it comes in just below it. But yeah, it just seems like it's harder wood than it shows. On the other hand, it does turn a heck of a lot easier than pecan. So when I'm rough turning bowls, my go-to gouge for the most part is my 3/4 inch Thompson bowl gouge. So Dutch elm disease is still out there. It is still an issue, and some trees are more immune to it than others. So if I had this tree on my own property, I would have let it be. I would not have cut it down unless it showed signs of the disease, and then I would have cut it down. So it's time to form my tenon. I had marked it out using a pair of calipers. I define it with my gouge, and then I refine it with my skew. I think this shot right here really shows you that the grain is going to be something spectacular. So I'm putting on the smaller of the bowl blanks, which I will rough turn into a live edge bowl. Man, there is nothing like turning green wood with a nice sharp gouge. Look at those beautiful peels. So some of you might be wondering about the rest of the tree. It'll be just fine sitting out there until I get my medical clearance. I should be able to start turning again sometime in March, and at which point I'm going to do a lot of bowls. I'm just going to rough basically everything that I've got. I also am going to rough out a lot of vases with smaller sections that I wouldn't really produce much for bowls. And so when that happens, I'm going to be busy for several weeks just roughing stuff out. So also during that period, I am going to start timber framing my shop edition. Please stay tuned for that. There'll be lots of videos on that coming up. And I'm eager to get started on that as well. So now I got the big blank turned around, it's secure in the chuck, and now I'm getting it ready to core. So I'm going to do something a little different on this core. I'm starting from the largest core and working down to the smallest. And the way that happens is I'll core out the big one, turn it around, put a new tenon on it, and then core it again. It's more steps, but I don't have the greatest luck sometimes when I go from the smallest to the largest. Sometimes I get my measurements wrong, and some of the cores have too thin a bottom. So that is the reason why I left the faceplate on, because then after that core pops out, I can just turn around, thread it back onto the spindle, and then add a tenon to it. So I'm going back to my earlier statement about it seeming harder than it really is, because it is coring out harder than sweet gum as well. The wood hardness doesn't always reflect directly to how hard it is to turn. I'll give you an example. Bradford pear is very, very hard, and it turns beautifully. Well, finally! Again, look at that grain. I am absolutely on edge to know how it is going to look when it's finished. Time to put that core back on and add a tenon. So now I'm on to using my robust turner's edge 5/8 bowl gouge. This is my go-to gouge for practically everything else besides roughing. So at the risk of getting hate messages from the fans of Thompson bowl gouges, I will say I do prefer my robust turner's edge. I think they keep a keener edge longer. Although I do love my Thompson tools, I do prefer the robust. Another thing I do love is this collet handle that I have. I have the 16-inch in this case. I also have them for my skews. I have another 16 and a 12. They work very, very well, and I really do like them. And no, I am not sponsored by Robust. So I'm showing I am setting up for the inner core, though I'm not going to show it actually happen. I'm going to move on to boiling.
Okay, so I've got my 3 elm bowls that I got out of my one big core. And once again, it's time to boil the bowls. So I'm going to put them into the can, fill it with water, and get it going. And it'll be an hour and a half or so, and I'll take them out and I will treat them with pentacryl. I get the question every time I do this, why do you boil them? And the answer is very simple. It allows the bound water to leave much more easily. It softens the lignin. In doing so, it allows the bowls to dry much faster and without cracking, or lessens the chances of cracking. It has made the number of bowls that are viable out of the ones that I have turned far, far higher than if I just turned them and let them dry on their own. So here we go.
So I do want to give you all a cautionary tale. If you are doing this, you will be working with a large amount of very scalding water. You could get severely burned. Please, please, please be very, very careful.
I only have a few bowls at the bottom, only 3, and so I won't have to fill it nearly as much, so this should go faster than normal. Usually I have it full all the way to the top. I do have one more bowl that I turned out of the elm that was live edge bark on. That's not going in there because I want to preserve the bark if I can, and so that one's just going to be treated straight with pentacryl. I'll tell you what, this elm wood looks beautiful. I'm eager to see it totally dried and finished. Hopefully in 3 months' time I'll be able to take care of that. Actually, it'll be longer than that because I'm having surgery, so probably sometime by March I'll be able to finish them. Alright, plenty of water. I'm going to cover it up and let it boil. Okay, they're done boiling. Just got to get them out without scalding myself.
If you are at all worried about getting them out without hurting yourself badly, just let the whole thing cool down and then take it out when it's cold. I will say one of the benefits about taking them out hot is that the pentacryl really, really goes in well when it's hot. It really sucks right into the wood. That, however, should not be a substitute for safety. If you can't do it safe, just let it be.
On the live edge one, I've already treated the inside and outside transition from bark to wood with thin CA glue.
I do try to husband my supply of pentacryl because the stuff is pretty expensive. That is why in the coming year I'm going to try to build a new kiln just for bowls that will be a dehumidification kiln, so I don't have to keep buying this stuff.
And there we go. Hopefully, I'll probably turn these sometime in March once I'm given the medical okay to do so. Okay, so it is November 23rd. I am less than a week into recovery, 6 days as of right now, so I've got a long way to go before I can get back out here in the shop. But I was editing this elm video and I decided to give an update, which I can do. And I will tell you, as of right now, this large bowl is, the highest I see is about 12.5%. It is a little hairy on the outside. Let's see, the smallest core, we're at, in the middle there, it's still at 19. And let's see, at the bottom of the middle-sized core is at 23. But once you get to the side, it's out to 8. So I would believe if you look on the inside, it's only 12% at the bottom. So the very, very, very bottom on the tenon is reading very high. Let's do the same thing over here. Yeah, same thing on the big one. Yeah, the big bowl needs more time as well. On the inside, yeah, the inside of the big one is only at 6%. On the outside, looking up, it's very high, and it's the tenon that seems to be holding on all that water. So again, these things will be absolutely ready for me to turn long before I'm ready to come back into the shop. So that's the update. We're less than a week till Thanksgiving, so everybody have a great Thanksgiving, and thanks for watching. Bye-bye.